You refuse to sign contracts for zero reason. That's what are you Matthew, were you there? What are you talking about? I can't do the same freaking BS over and over again. I've explained all this, but I will explain this one because I saw you. I didn't. Why would I? See, what happens is, like, Anthony starts all sorts of garbage, and then I got to defend myself. Why would I not sign contracts for no good reason? The amount of money they were throwing at us. Can you use your stupid brain? Why would I not sign a contract for no good reason? Did you go to school? We were destroying for SiriusXM. We were destroying for regular radio back in the day, and they were basically paying us pennies on the dollar, even though we made a decent salary. Why do you think I'm sitting here like hoping for another little run? Because just oh my God, I get so frustrated because in this day and age, somebody could just spew their nonsense, and then that is looked at as facts, and then you got to fight and you got to explain and push back. And I'm so done with the pushing back crap. Why would I not sign contracts for no good reason? Are you crazy? The fact is, Anthony has no money. The fact is, I need a little run. Considering what the Opie and Anthony Show did, considering the amount of people that were listening to Opie and Anthony, considering the amount of money we were making executives and salespeople across the board, that I shouldn't have to worry about money ever again in my life. And same goes for Anthony. I'll stick up for him as well. He doesn't have a lot of money left. I'm going to have to probably make some big moves to continue living the way I do. The fact is they weren't paying us enough. And so I was the only one that would fight and go, I ain't signing this. This is garbage. And Ant could spin it all he wants. But a few of those times I got us more money. And one time, because those dopes signed before me and I said, I ain't signing. And they're like, well, there's no show without you. I'm like, oh, well. I ended up making a few $100,000 more than those guys because they were insecure and they signed their contracts behind my back. I'm like, I don't care if they sign. I ain't signing. And then they're like, well, what's it going to take? And then I finally gave them a number that was a bit higher than what was on the piece of paper in front of me. And they're like, all right, done. But to say that I didn't sign contracts for no good reason, you obviously don't know business or anything. You probably barely made it through school. And even with that said, we were still underpaid. Come on, Ope. You don't want 2 pennies to sign a contract where you're overworked and undervalued. Get the stupid cowboy hat off me, TikTok. Thank you. No, it's just, look, when you don't like somebody, you will throw everything at them. And half these people are fully aware that some of the stuff they throw at me is complete and utter nonsense. But that's what you do when you don't like somebody. And when you're like sticking up and supporting somebody else. But the guy's logic, his comment, it drove me nuts because who in their right mind wouldn't sign a contract that was for a lot of money? I just felt like it wasn't enough considering what we were bringing in. Why the F would I not sign a contract for no good reason? I wasn't independently wealthy or anything like that. I'm a kid from Long Island that grew up extremely poor. I wouldn't just casually like, I ain't signing your multi-million-dollar contract. Why? Oh, I don't have a why. I'm just not doing it. God, that's where like Anthony really, really needed to finish school. Anthony Cumia, when I knew him, I don't know the guy at all, and I've discussed this. I don't even know if I ever knew the guy, but when I was hanging with the guy every day doing that radio show, his street smarts were spot on. He had very, very good street smarts, but his book smarts were not good at all. And that's where maybe he should have continued going to school and taking maybe college classes or something so he could understand, how to negotiate and understand that if you're a show that's bringing in millions of dollars, they weren't going to get rid of us. It just meant they were going to keep pushing the number until they could finally get you to sign the paper. Yeah, but these guys, there was one of the I don't know if I ever talked about this, but I think it was one of the last contracts I signed for Opie and Anthony. Like I was holding them up for more money. I'm like, this is crazy. I know what Howard Stern's making, and we were making pennies compared to that guy. And I'm like, no, I don't even know how many more years we got. No, we got to get every single dollar we can from these guys. So like my agent's like, and I'm like, I'm not signing. I'm not signing, Bob. This is not a good contract, right? And then I go in. This is the type of guy I worked with. This says it all. So I go in to do the Opie and Anthony show, and I'm like, yeah. So what are we gonna do, Ant? We need to continue negotiating with these guys. He's like, what are you talking about? I signed last night. So the guy signs a contract without even telling me. So that kind of took a lot of the oomph out of my negotiations, but and then he goes, then Jimmy signed too. I'm like, oh, you two are just made for each other. You're just the worst. So I'm like, oh, that's great. And so I did the show that day, another day where it was just miserable because I'm like, oh, why am I with this guy? That's on me. That was me being stupid. And so the company came to me, they're like, well, those two signed. What are you going to do? I'm like, I ain't signing. What? I ain't signing. This is a terrible contract. Well, what is it going to take? And then without getting into it, I'm like, it's going to take, and the number was a few $100,000 more. And then they're like, well, how about this, this number? I'm like, And so they're like, all right, fine. How about this? So we settled on a number. So the last contract, because those guys went behind my back and were sneaky as F and signed without telling me, I ended up making more money that last contract than those guys. That's why I didn't sign. Hey, you weren't signing contracts for no good reason. No, I went to school. I knew how to negotiate. I was confident in what I was doing and confident in the show we were doing, that they weren't going to kick us out the door at that point anyway. Didn't you guys share the same agent? Why would your agent allow Ant to sign behind your back like that? That's a betrayal by the agent as well. No, I don't want to speak badly about Bob because he did a lot for me and my family. He was Super Agent Bob Eatman. He's no longer with us. But yeah, that was the beginning of the end with my association with Bob. I was like, wow, you guys are talking behind my back. Wow. And then Bob thought he could strong arm me and say, if Anthony and Jimmy sign, then he has to sign, which in the end I had to, but I got I got a little extra bag for it. But yeah, that was brutal. Wow, the real stuff's coming out today. Yeah, that was that really hurt our relationship for real. And then he was also representing Jimmy, who took over my morning show. I'm like, Bob, I can't work with you anymore. You represent the guy that is a backstabbing worm. And you know what? Bob goes, do you want me not to represent? I'll tell you all the stuff. Let's go. So Bob goes, oh wow, here we go. So Bob goes, you want me to not represent Jim Norton anymore? I'm like, I am not going to answer that question, Bob. That's up to you. That's up to you and what you need to do for you and your family. That's up to you. I'm just telling you, this is no bueno that not only did the guy sign the last contract behind my back, putting me in a really weird position, but I did all right in the end. You're also representing the guy that took over my stupid radio show in a very sneaky, backstabbing worm way. Brutal. This is the best comment of the summer right here. You got some. I don't think I ever talked about this one. So then I had to part ways with Bob. It was amicable, and we kept in touch right up until he died. I gotta say this because, you gotta tell the complete story. When something goes wrong with somebody, a relationship, a business partner, whatever, it's so easy just to like hammer them with all the bad stuff. Look, I gave Anthony the compliment. He just blows off all the race stuff. He's got to let it settle down. So it'll probably take like between 3 and 6 months. Then he would make millions on his own. Obviously, he'd make millions with me. That goes without saying. But I think he could make millions on his own as well. But he's got to get rid of all that garbage, that race garbage. But the complete man, Bob did so much for me professionally, personally. I haven't made a decent salary at this point in like 5 years. He set me up in such a way that I'm hanging in there. It's not going to last forever. That's for sure. I'm gonna need another little run. And even though I said I can't work with you anymore, you represent the guy that took my show. How does that doesn't work for me? But with that said, right to the end, we were talking, and he was literally on his deathbed, and he found out that SiriusXM let me go, and he knew it was BS, that they railroaded me for some crap that in the end, I don't need to get into it again. I did just fine. Thank you very much, Scott Greenstein, for being a gentleman in the end and paying every dollar owed to me. I could say that. No, I'm going to say that. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that, but screw it. Because I'm thanking the guy. Because in the end, he's like, okay, yeah, we kind of railroaded you. Because, you know, we were kind of sick of you and your Howard Stern crap. And he's our big show. And if he's mad or goes away, then none of us have jobs. So that's the real reason. It came out after the fact. But when they railroaded me, Bob was the first person to call me, and he could barely talk anymore. And I don't want to imitate his voice because it was downright depressing. And he basically is like, "What could I do? What could I do for you? That you know what they're doing to you is not fair. It's not right." And he's like, "I got to call into blank, who was like a middle management guy, and I got to call into Scott Greenstein." He was working on my behalf days before he died. That's the type of guy in the end Bob really was. Did we have that foible near the end where things got a little weird? Of course. But in the end, that was the guy that I said yes to working with all those years ago in Boston, Massachusetts. We were working at WAAF. We were becoming massively huge in the radio world, and all the radio magazines were doing articles on us. And Bob was in Chicago. He read this huge article on Opie and Anthony. He called me up. He's like, "Can I meet you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And he's like, "Well, I'm flying, but I think I could." I remember it was yesterday. He's like, "I think I could do a stopover at Logan Airport. Can you meet me at the airport?" And we just hit it off. And I go, "Bob, you know, I was cocky back then, and I was sort of representing me and Anthony." I say sort of because I had no business doing it, but I was representing us with Bruce Mittman and the rest of the gang at WAF. So I was kind of being sort of an agent for us. And I go to Bob after our meeting. I'm like, "We don't need you. We kind of just signed a contract, and I don't know what to tell you." He's like, "Well, keep my card just in case." And he was well respected at the time and well respected during his entire career. And I think at this point he was, I think he was Mancow's agent at this point. And Mancow had quite the run in Chicago, quite the run. So fast forward, then we do the mayor's prank in Boston, and now we're screwed. They're talking about arresting us and jail time and charges, all this crazy stuff that never panned out. And I was definitely scared. I know Anthony was scared, and I had this card. I'm like, I'm gonna call this guy. And sure enough, he took my call, and we pretty much signed with him immediately because he was a lawyer too, so we needed him to help us navigate this craziness that was happening in Boston. And then we got the offers in New York, and I remember being in a hotel because I think we had another meeting with those guys or something. And Bob called me. He's like, "All right, I met with the guys, and I'll tell you everything. I don't give a crap." So being a kid from Long Island that didn't make a lot of money, I'm in a hotel in New York City. Bob calls me. He's like, "All right, I got the first offer from," I think at this point it was going to be NEW, even though they were negotiating with CBS Radio in general. It was going to be between K-Rock and NEW. K-Rock was the Howard Stern station, and it comes out that Howard demanded that me and Anthony don't work on the same station as him. So the phone rings. I'm in a hotel, and it's Bob. He's like, "All right, I got the first offer." I'm like, "All right, I'm going to tell you, I don't give a fuck." And he says it's 6 figures. I'm like, "When can we sign?" When can we sign? He's like, relax. I'm going to get so much more money from these guys. And at that point, I'm like, oh, I think we're in pretty decent hands right now. And then he more or less doubled that number that he told me that day. And then the rest is history. But even when we were on that rocket ship, we were always so underpaid compared to Howard Stern. Oh my God. Even if you don't think we were as good as Howard, that's fine. But we were, let's say, for the haters, let's say Howard was up here, okay? Even if we were like up here, the amount of money that meant and what we actually were getting was way down here.